so it's touchy. You know, when you bring it up, somebody gets mad. They don't want to talk about it because it's touchy, because they spent all they had in hopes of something getting better, but there was no getting better. And so the word tells us, in fact, that she didn't get better, y'all. She got worse. So now the woman has no healing. She has no money, but she has faith. Wait, but wait a minute. She's ceremonially unclean, so that means she can't go into the temple. That means she can't go into the church house. That means that she can't go in and attend a collective worship service. So how does she have faith? And it seems to me that her faith was connected to what she had already heard about Jesus. It wasn't connected to getting dressed up and going into the temple and occupying a seat. Her faith wasn't connected to a building, but to the chief cornerstone. And so I invite you today that if your faith is connected to a building or to a man or a woman, you got faith in the wrong thing this morning. And so what I know is that we were not able to collectively gather for about 6 months, and I hope your faith wasn't in that old building. And I hope today that your faith is not even in this new building. But I want you to know, and I hope that your faith is in the true source, the true power source, the one that is able to do anything that we need. So I hope today that we can learn from this woman. She didn't have healing, and she didn't have money, but she had faith. And that's a word for somebody, because you got $2 in the bank, and you wondering how that bill is going to get paid. Or perhaps you've got to go see a specialist even on this week because they said they saw something and they need to run more tests. So don't have faith today, not even in me. Don't have faith in the building, but you need to have faith in the one who is able to handle your situation. And so what the woman does next, she gets her faith and she decides that this situation is touchy, but I've had enough. And so she decides to break the law. She comes out of the confines of her home, y'all, and she comes into a crowd. Now, imagine today, I know her issue is the issue of blood, but imagine somebody today that has COVID knowingly that comes into a crowd of people just so they can get to Jesus. And I imagine the people were looking at her like, what is she doing? Why is she out here? But she had made up in her mind that this situation is touchy, but now I got to make it even more touchy. I got to touch Jesus. I got to do something about this. She decides that this situation is sensitive, but it can't be ignored. And so she decides to risk it all by pressing her way through the crowd. Y'all, she's tired. She's tired physically. She's tired of the whispering. She's tired of the people talking. She's tired of going to doctor after doctor with no results. She's drained financially, physically, and spiritually. And so she decides she's going to come up behind Jesus and touch his garment. She's going to touch his robe. And so that's a word for you today. You got a situation that you've been dealing with. It may not be 12 years, but it's been a long time coming. And so you've grown tired of it. You've grown tired of dealing with it. You've grown tired of people having to answer the questions of the people about why are you still in this situation. And so you're tired of people whispering when you walk into the room. You're tired of the money and the time that you've exerted, and this issue still hasn't got any better. But can I encourage you on today that when you get tired enough, when you get that Fannie Lou Hamer spirit and you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, you won't care what the people say, because what you'll realize, y'all, they're going to talk anyway, whether you're doing good or whether you're doing bad. The people are still going to talk anyway. And when you make up in your mind that it doesn't matter what people say, you'll begin to press your way. You'll press your way to the crowd. It doesn't matter how packed the parking lot is. Even if I got to park on the road, I'm still coming to Jesus. It doesn't matter if I have to sit in the back or where I have to sit. I've got to get to Jesus. And so you'll begin to press your way to Jesus by any means necessary. And you'll say, I'm not going anywhere, Lord, until you bless me. You won't give up. You won't grow weary in your well-doing. You won't get tired. You will stay in line. You'll stay in place. And even as we voted on this past weekend, we saw lines from miles and miles away of people who said, I'm not leaving here until I cast my vote. Can I tell you, we need to get like that for Jesus? I don't care if Sunday school starts at 8. I'll get there at 8. I don't care if Jessica preaches a little long and I got to stay a little bit longer. I need a word from the Lord. And so I know I get busy and I know I get tired, but I will continue to press towards the one that is able. And now she says to herself, y'all, she says, if I can touch the hem his garment. Then will I be made whole. You missed it. An if then statement is a conditional statement. So the conditional statement is made up of two parts. And I know y'all thought this was a sermon, but this is a math lesson. I like numbers. I like math. And so a conditional statement has two parts. It has a hypothesis and a conclusion. The hypothesis is literally the explanation, but it's based on limited evidence. They don't have a lot to go off of. It's a theory, if you would think of it in that way. And the conclusion is the solution. It's the close. It's the wind up. And I know you thought you would never use the Pythagorean theorem again in your whole life, but can I use it for example this morning? The Pythagorean theorem says that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So if a is 3 and b is 4, then a squared plus b squared equals 25 or 5 squared. And so if the first part, a squared plus b squared, is the hypothesis, then my conclusion is always going to come out to be 25 or 5 squared. And so as I conclude this message, can I tell you that the next time that you're faced with a touchy subject, whether it be sickness in your body, whether it be finance, whether it be trouble in your home, that you need to make a conditional statement. And in case you need to know how you can make a conditional statement, I stopped by this morning just to let you know and help you know how to make a conditional statement. When trouble comes, don't you run, don't you cower, don't you run in a corner and cry and ball up in a knot, but you get certifiable in your faith. Yes, certifiable means crazy, but you need to get crazy in your faith, just like this woman did. And you look at that trouble in the face and you say, you let it know that I may have the hypothesis, but my God has the conclusion. And so you let the trouble know. You let the trouble know that regardless of how it started out and regardless of how the first part of this statement looks, I already know what the conclusion is. Well, Jessica, how do you know what the conclusion is? The word tells us in Deuteronomy, if you are careful to obey my commandments, and if you love the Lord, then will I send the rain that you may prosper, if and then. Deuteronomy also tells us, if you obey these commands that I'm giving to you, the Lord will drive out nations ahead of you. So if I'm obedient, he fights my battles. And he lets us know, he says, if you obey me, then you have plenty to eat. It lets us know that my cup is going to continue to run over if I obey him. The next part in Romans tells us, if God is for us, then who can be against us? So that lets me know that no matter what I face, that if God is with me, he's more than the world against me. The word says, if any man be in Christ, then he is a new creature. I know you think of me as a woman with the issue of blood or the drinking problem or the drug problem, but baby, when God gets a hold of me, I'm a new creature. You can't call me by that anymore because I'm not that same person. God has delivered me from that situation. Says, if you have faith even the size of a mustard seed, then you can talk to this mountain. If I've got the faith, then I've got the power even in my speech. Stop speaking negativity over your life. Start speaking positivity. You talk to that mountain and you tell it it's got to move. It's got to get out of the way. I love 2 Corinthians. It says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and heal the land and forgive their sins. And so if I do this, then God does that. And so the word tells us, if you remain in me and my words in you, then you may ask anything you want and it will be granted. And so we're thinking about these conditional statements and we're like, Jessica, that don't even make sense. That's Old Testament. But can I tell you what I love about the Lord? How he's able to take an Old Testament and he's able to drop it in my spirit. And so if you don't remember anything else from this message, if he did it before, then he can do it again. Same God right now. Same God back then. And can I tell you what else blesses me? And if he doesn't do it, then he's still able. And so if and then is always the conclusion. Is always going to work out in my favor because he's God and that doesn't change. That doesn't change. And so I'm grateful for the hypothesis. It doesn't have a lot of evidence. I know you say you have faith the size of a mustard seed. It doesn't make sense. A mustard seed is so small. But y'all, the conclusion, I'm grateful for the conclusion because God always works it out. I'm grateful for the touch, how he touched me, how he changed me, how he made me new. Can I tell you, I'm also grateful today for the spoken word. I'm thankful for how God, even when I can't get to him or I feel like I'm so far from him, he's still able to work my situation out. And so I shared with some friends a while back that there was a night when the children were getting ready to go to sleep. And so two babies. Everybody wants to be under mama, right? And so as I was trying to get Laura Diane into this arm and trying to get Lamonte over here, and so he said, Mama, I can't, I'm trying to hold your hand and I can't touch you. And I said, baby, I said, it's okay. You can't touch me, but I can touch you. And so even when I feel like I'm so far from God, even when I feel like I don't know where he is and I can't trace him, can I let you know that he still touches me, that his hand is still on me? And if his hand is on me, his hand is still on you today. And so we ought to be grateful that God is able. Even if he doesn't touch the situation, he's able to speak to the situation. And so Jesus spoke healing to the blind. He spoke healing to the lepers. He even spoke life into Lazarus. He said, Lazarus, come forth. And so I'm just reminded the reason he said Lazarus by name, because if he had said come forward, everybody would have got up out of the grave, because that's the kind of power that he has. And so today it may be touchy, y'all. I don't know what your situation is. And I'm not going to try to pretend that I have all the answers. It could be finances. It could be health. It could just be needing peace of mind. Whatever it is, I just want you to know that God is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all you can ask or think. And so today, they may be referring to you out in the world as the one with the issue of whatever it is. But y'all, when God turns that thing around, they won't be able to call you that anymore. And don't you dare answer to it. I don't care what your issue was 5 minutes ago, whatever it was. Don't allow them to call you that. Don't answer to that anymore. Because the greatest shout of it all, y'all, what we'll be able to do after we've gone through the touchy subjects, after we've gone to the doctors, after we've sought friends and family and loved ones and nobody else could do it. When God does what God does, we'll be able to say, if it had not been for the Lord on my side, then where would I be? And so today you need to make a conditional statement. Somebody needs to make a conditional statement. Somebody is saying, I've been coming to church for a long time, but I've never dedicated my life to the Lord. And so today we want to give you that opportunity. If you've never had a relationship with God, and you need to come into the fellowship of Christ. You need to come into the family of fellowship. We invite you now. The doors of the church are open for you to come. If you need to join today, don't put off today for tomorrow, because we don't know how much longer we will be here. And so I do ask that now, if you are coming, that you're coming just for discipleship. If you need prayer, we will do that later. But this is the opportunity for those that don't know Christ, those that need to know more about the man that's able to heal issues of 12 years, 15 years, 20 years. Somebody needs to get to know that God. Somebody needs that God to speak to their situation. Somebody needs that God to help them even right now. And so if you've never given your life to Christ, this is your opportunity right now. The song says, today, just come. Don't wait for tomorrow, because, y'all, we may not make it tomorrow. And so if everybody in here is saved, then that is amazing. That is great. But now that we are saved, then now the touchy subjects don't need to bother me anymore. I don't care that people talk. They're going to talk anyway. They do a lot of talking. And so today, those of you that are believers, I dare you today to get certifiable in your faith and say that, God, I've been in this situation 10, 15, 20 years, God, and it seems like I'll never get out of it. Y'all keep pressing. Extend your body out to him. Lay before him. Not before us. We can't do nothing about it. But you need to prostrate yourself before him and say, God, I need you to change this situation. Because the word tells us that if we obey his commandments, then anything that we ask of shall be granted in the name of Jesus. We see that there are none, but there are always room. In the family of faith, there's always room. And so today, I hope that this word, if it didn't do anything else, it just reminded you that God can turn that thing around immediately, suddenly. The word says that when she touched him, suddenly, you ain't got to go home and jump up